Supervisor Anderson, Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Sheriff Representative Yuri.
Here.
Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp.
Here.
And Chair Lawson.
Here. Before we begin, I'll take a moment to address our house rules. Public engagement is the cornerstone of transparent and accountable government. And these board of supervisors meetings are the primary venue where all citizens can make their voices heard. The county is committed to working free from unlawful discrimination not use loud, shouting, threatening, profane, or abusive language as a member of the board, staff, or general public. All remarks and questions must remain on topic during the duration of your speaking time and must be addressed to the board, not county staff. Any speaker engaged in comments that raises rules will issue a warning. After one warning, you will be asked to leave the chambers for the remainder of the meeting. Finally, speakers threatening violence may be reported to law enforcement and removed. We will now proceed with closed session reports. Councilors, the report for yesterday's closed session.
Good morning. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session on March 3rd, 2026, from 4:12 p.m. to 4:43 p.m. All board members were present. All items on the closed session agenda were heard except item 18A. The board took the following reportable actions. On items 18B and SA01A, Vera Scott versus La Mesa Spring Valley School District. By a vote of 5-0, the board authorized the San Diego County Sanitation District to be defended by County Council. On item 18D, Sierra Club versus County of San Diego, by a vote of 5-0, the board authorized County Council to appeal the Superior Court's decision allowing Sierra Club's challenge to the Harmony Grove Village South development. On item 18F, by a vote of 4-1, with Supervisor Desmond voting no, the board authorized County Council to initiate litigation. Particulars about that litigation will be disclosed to any person upon inquiry after litigation has formally commenced.
Thank you. We now proceed with non-agenda public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within our jurisdiction, but not on our agenda today. The only action we may take is a referral to CAO. Under the board's rules, speakers may speak once per meeting. These are yesterday's or today's session, but not both sessions. To better facilitate the meeting, we have 5 speakers in person and 5 speakers by phone, and the remainder of the non-agenda public comment will be heard at the close of the session. In order to ensure timely completion of the agenda, any discussion items with 10 or more speakers, for any discussion items with 10 or more speakers, individuals have 1 minute. As a reminder, members of the public that are not English speaking and need interpretation assistance proceed to us a lot of time for their comments. And audience members shall not whistle, clap, stomp, feet, or do anything that disrupts the proceedings. If you disrupt the meeting, you will be given 1 warning. If you disrupt the meeting again, you will be asked to leave the chamber. All right, please call speakers.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. Remember, we have 11 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 1 individual in person, and 10 requesting to speak by phone. For those that have requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll now begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward Dorothea Flanagan. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Dorothea Flanagan.
Not here.
Not seeing any movement in the chamber, we'll now hear from those that are requested to speak by phone. Again, in accordance with the board's rules, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. Again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Hi, good morning, supervisors. My name is Madison, and I'm here today because the public narrative around cannabis is shifting and not in a good way for public health. Researchers of the University of California, San Francisco, published a study in JAMA Cardiology finding that chronic cannabis use, whether smoked or eaten, is associated with significant cardiovascular harm. In fact, regular users had blood vessel function reduced by nearly half compared to non-users. Marijuana smokers showed a 42% reduction in vascular function, and THC edible users showed an even greater 56% reduction. The impairment to arteries, their ability to dilate properly, is a key predictor of heart attack and stroke risk. This adds to growing research, including findings from Massachusetts General Hospital, showing that marijuana use is linked to increased risk of heart attack and stroke, even in otherwise healthy adults. Marijuana is often framed as benign or even wellness-oriented, but the science is catching up. Whether smoked, vaped, or eaten, THC products are not harmless. As you consider policies like the Social Equity Cannabis Program, which increases access to these harmful products, I urge you to weigh this mounting evidence. Public health, including long-term heart health, deserves to come first. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to our next speaker.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Kelsey Coughlin, and I'm a voting constituent for Supervisor Tara Lawson-Raymer. I'm here today to speak to intimate animals, and our county cannot speak for them themselves, so I will. First off, the Carlsbad Shelters volunteer program has been effectively shut down for over a year, and the consequences are visible and devastating. Community members, including myself, have been actively reaching out, pleading for the opportunity to come into the shelter and provide enrichment and socialization to the animals. And for over a year, prospective volunteers have been turned away. Meanwhile, dogs sit in the kennels without adequate stimulation or exercise, without human connection, and without advocacy. Help is offered and refused. How do we justify that? I ask you to take immediate, concrete action to reinstate this program. Second, we cannot ignore the role that spay neuter access plays in this crisis. Overcrowding in both the Carlsbad and Bonita shelters does not appear out of nowhere. It's a predictable result of insufficient preventative care. Inaccessible spay neuter services directly drive intake numbers, and euthanasia rates rise with them. Investment in low-cost spay neuter programs is the single most effective long-term solution. Animals are being euthanized not because they're beyond saving, but because they're not being given adequate time or the support needed to work through manageable challenges. Finally, Supervisor Tara Lawson-Raymer has been aware of the cruelty and neglect affecting the horses on Artesian Road, yet nothing has changed. The suffering of these animals matters to people in her district, and continued inaction is unacceptable. This is animal abuse, and if you turn away without commitment to change, you are complicit in it. I will continue to show up, and I will continue spreading the word on and off social media platforms to inform every voting constituent in this county of.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, board. My name is Kathleen Lippitt. It has been painful to watch what seems like a long-term strategy to eliminate over 500,000 unincorporated voices as if they have nothing of value or interest to this board majority. The indications of the strategy of the new board majority had in mind began with planning and development services taking over the agendas of unincorporated planning groups. It came into clearer focus with former Supervisor Fletcher's most unmerited, unwanted, and potentially long-term destructive policy of his euphemistically titled Cannabis Equity Framework for the Future. The future to which he referred was the marijuana industry's future, because it certainly was not on behalf of the future of unincorporated communities. Yesterday, the board spent a fair amount of time talking about heart disease, when in fact, the very policy that you have adopted contributes to that. Whether it's smoking or edibles, marijuana is bad for people's hearts. I also would like to refer to an unincorporated area letter comment that was in the paper. And it speaks volumes for what is going on. Many people, she says, do not realize that if you live outside the city limits, you are a resident of an unincorporated area. This means you do not have a city hall, you do not have a city council, and you certainly don't have a mayor. In reality, unincorporated communities have been deprived of their elected district supervisors by effectively turning over the power to the three board majority who have mostly urban residents in their district. That is not in the best interest of.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Peggy Walker.
Supervisor Leslie Reamer has proposed a consumer fairness and public protection unit to shine light on deceptive practices that carry high public costs. If this unit is to function as a public watchdog, will it investigate untruths routinely promoted by the marijuana industry, particularly claims about so-called medical marijuana now refuted by peer-reviewed scientific research, about high-potency THC dangers or illicit marketing targeting youth? Will the unit disclose what experts have long warned, that commercialization of marijuana fractures families, destabilizes neighborhoods, and destroys young lives? You've said small deceptions can lead to financial harm. The marijuana industry's central deception is that its products are risk-free and non-addictive. Marketing delivers that message because drug demand responds directly to perceived risk and access. But the consequences are highly costly. According to Harvard Medical School researcher Bertha Madras, substance use costs exceed $1 trillion annually in lost productivity, disability, cognitive impairment, and emotional disruption. Will this unit disclose the millions spent annually on marijuana-related health care for physical and neuropsychiatric harms, on marijuana-related child neglect, domestic instability, or high prevalence of substance abuse among the homeless, which costs an estimated $30,000 to $60,000 per individual annually? A consumer fairness and public protection unit committed to fairness must scrutinize and disclose the magnitude of.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, my name is Blair, and I'm here today to advocate for the animals in our county shelters who cannot speak for themselves. The volunteer program in Carlsbad Shelter must actively be reinstated and properly managed. Volunteers are not optional, they are essential. They reduce staff burden, improve animals' outcomes, and strengthen community engagement. Without a functioning volunteer program, animals lose critical enrichment, socialization, and advocacy. That directly impacts their mental health, their adoptability, and ultimately whether they live or die. Secondly, spay and neuter efforts are the most effective way to reduce intake and prevent overcrowding. When access to low-cost, accessible spay and neuter services are limited, intake increases and overcrowding worsens. Insufficient access directly contributes to higher euthanasia rates. Investing in these accessible spay and neuter programs are not just compassionate, it is fiscally responsible and a proven long-term solution that addresses the root cause rather than the symptom. We are also deeply concerned that animals are being euthanized without being given adequate time or support to overcome manageable challenges. Many behavioral and medical issues are treatable with basic intervention, foster placement, or volunteer support. Euthanasia should be a last resort, not a response to a lack of staffing, lack of resources, or lack of programs. Our community cares deeply about these animals. We are asking you to prioritize life-saving policies, invest in prevention, and ensure that every animal is given a fair chance. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. Again, all remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Okay, thank you very much. We now proceed with and we'll be actually coming for a motion. I'll call for public comment after my colleagues have an opportunity to pull the items if like.
Just for clarification, so item number 7 is on Smith as well?
Yeah.
Okay, I just for item number 7 is the same thing, resolution the Parks and Rec team for bringing this item to the board. I know it's been a lot of back and forth here, but I just, this project is extremely important to the community. So with that, I'll move into the consent agenda.
Thank you. The motion, Chair Lee.
Thank you. I'm not pulling any items, just a quick comment on item 3 regarding the Southern California Coastal Water Research Project. It is one of the most important important scientific partnerships that we have for protecting water quality in San Diego County. And through SCORE, we've been able to meet extremely strict state and federal water quality mandates without driving up unnecessary costs for the public or for development. But beyond these benefits, this partnership is also an opportunity to run the region's most advanced coordinated monitoring programs. And I really think that we should leverage this work to bring more focused, consistent, science-driven monitoring of the Tijuana River Valley. Happy to support that item and request that staff continue to leverage our membership to the benefit of our work. Thank you. Oh, sorry, and I second.
Okay.
I have nothing to pull, but I'm pleased to hear from our colleague. IMD's worked very closely with them in the past, so I was curious what your thoughts were, so thank you for that.
Supervisor Desmond?
Nothing to pull, no comments.
Okay. I also have nothing to report, no comments, so we'll go to public comments.
Thanks, Chair Lawson. Remember, we have 8 total requests to speak on items on the consent agenda, 3 individuals in person and 5 requesting to speak by phone. For any individual that did request to speak on items on the consent agenda by phone, if you could please out with the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stay on the arrows until it's your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record. Also, when speaking, please identify which items on the consent agenda you are speaking about. I'd like to invite forward the first 3 individuals, allegedly Audra, Cesar Javier, and Jennifer Royston.
Everything that you're doing in the consent is, you know, it's interesting the way you guys want to say that you want to protect our public health and safety. And, you know, with the inequities that are going on in this county, it's very sad because, you know, yesterday there was a gas leak and it's like, didn't bother anybody. It was like, no, let's just keep doing the meeting, right? I got beat of the chambers by a sheriff, and nobody cared about that. There's homeless people out on the streets that are dying and suffering, and nobody seems to care about that. You do a lot of work, paperwork, to make it seem like it. And, you know, we come to you all the time talking about the children that are suffering at the hands of HHS and Elizabeth here in her organization. And so when you say these things, and you even want to test the water, it's like, you have to have the sewage still coming in to be able to do that. And so I feel like, why aren't we stopping that? It's like, nobody, you guys act like we can't do anything, but let's test them and give them air purifiers. I mean, when are you actually going to stop that? Like, go to Mexico and be like, we're not doing commerce with you guys until you stop. Because they don't like when it goes into their communities. And so that's why they put it in ours. And it's like, people shouldn't have to suffer for decades just wanting help. While you guys sit here and claim that you do that, animals get abused, that you know about all the time. I mean, the county's covering up sexual abuse with Malaika and Taya. And it's like, and they're about to terminate parental rights so that the mother cannot even be a mom anymore. While the children beg to go home every time.
Where's Susan?
Cesar or Jennifer?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Royston, and I'm here today because, first of all, I want to try to get the attention of my FBI, because we all know that San Diego's FBI trafficking also. So those keywords are, because we know the FBI is always listening: Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, terrorists, terrorism, bombs, assassinations, and our great President Trump. Now,
You guys are allowing the county to convince these ignorant social workers that these children are going to have better lives, where they're going to be exploited, abused, and permanently damaged, and none of you really give a shit, and I cannot comprehend that in my mind. I'm just like, are you guys even really real? Or does money really control you that much? I just don't understand, and I guess I must be a moron. We all know that I didn't graduate high school, but I am a strong defender of my rights. I am a defender of children, and if you're a bully, I'm going to kick your ass, and I'm here today, and I will not stop. I'll make you hear me. I'll make your cities hear me, your neighbors hear me. I'll put your names out there. Morales, when you told me, oh, that is a beautiful video of a beautiful family, knowing that the county of San Diego took my beautiful boy away and then scared him, intimidated, drugged him, manipulated him, took him away from his entire family and isolated him. Shame on you. And you know what? We have a great president, and know when those bombs are done dropping everywhere around us, those bombs are going to come right here.
And all you motherfuckers are going to go to jail.
Not seeing any movement in the chamber by speaker. We'll now go to our callers. We'll hear from those that requested to speak by phone. Again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
So 50,000 years to an outfit that used advanced DNA methods to link Mexican sewage to U.S. beach pollution, when we know some of it actually comes from the United States. 7, subcontractor for the Calaba Park project. The current contractor refused to do the work required and said it was directed to continue pressing extra work activities above and beyond the approved NTE change order amounts. Sounds like the companies need a break from each other. Johnson Tractor Incorporated has good reviews. I say go with Johnston. Reports, though, are that you hired a convicted embezzler on the Narcan fentanyl prevention contract, and she did it again for at least $200,000. Deja vu on when I warned the county about hiring a psychiatric provider who flunked an LA County audit. So you need to listen better and do a lot more research on who you hire. 1, repealing and reenacting building codes. It would be nice if the agenda attachment said what they were instead of just an attachment number or letter. Many agenda items have the attachments labeled with the proper description. If you want to promote transparency with the public, just do it. Section 91.1.105 requires a permit for many changes. It would be nice if there were a table in the code show.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. Thank you for this opportunity to call in from my workplace. I do not leave it for granted, but I think it's important to share our thoughts on those items that we are particularly involved with. I called in to speak to consent items 1, 2, and 3, all of which I support. But I'd particularly like to draw your attention to item 1 and the staff report language, because I have some concerns about the way that we are putting things and our transparency and our willingness to own problems when we have them. It mentions under the sustainability impact that the changes they're making, the improvements, the upgrades to the laws and policies are to safeguard public health and well-being and reduce the demand on our first responders, good things all, during natural disasters resulting from climate change. Let's be really clear that there's a lot more going on, particularly with the floods, and this does address the floods that we had here in our city a couple of years ago that still have left people in a bad situation and have not had the remediation and support they needed from the county and as well as from the city. It's not everything is the fault of climate change. Sometimes it's because we as a city, we as a county, do not take good care of our residents. We don't meet their needs, we don't clear out their drainage ditches, and maintenance is deferred, and these are the results that happen. We have evidence of what's going on in item 3, and there is the need to bring in others to clean up water that's and air, I might say, that affects the well-being of people in the South Bay.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
It really is ridiculous. You guys blame the weather, you blame global warming, but at the same time, you don't recognize the mistakes that you're making that caused the flood. That, you know, we don't clean out the straight ditches because we want nature back. And then a bunch of houses get flooded, and then you guys, and then City of San Diego to sue 11 people and blame them. I find these kind of actions terrible. Why don't you be honest with people and say, hey, look, it's getting hotter in San Diego because we put concrete on everything. And the humidity is going up because of the same deal. There's a lot more moisture in the air because the ground isn't breathing anymore. We have no desire to go ahead and fix it because we want to turn the City of San Diego into a super city. I mean, you're forcing, let's say, Carlsbad to go ahead and put low-income housing when they don't have a problem with it up there. They don't have a problem with homeless. But we need the NGOs over there so we can go ahead and change the leadership. This is really kind of screwed up, the fact that you totally disrespect us completely, ignore the people around there because you found a way to go ahead and cheat the election. Both the Republicans and the Democrats. Republicans started it off with the lead women voters in the nursing homes. There's no question about that. That's in history. That's in California history. We tried to go ahead and address it, and then we chose to ignore it. And that problem became bigger. So am I wondering why we became Israel's, playboy? No shit. We allowed them to go ahead and steal our elections, and they control a lot of our Congress people. Are we wondering why we're turning into 15-minute cities? They control of most of the local officials, and you guys are just following a line. Not everyone. I mean, Jim Desmond, once you're gone, they're going to go ahead and replace you with someone that is more in line with Joel.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chair Lawson Creamer, that concludes public comment on the items on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion by Vice Chairman Homestead and a second by Chairperson Geary. Please vote.
And Chair Lawson Creamer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present voting aye.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we'll now move on to our discussion items. Beginning with discussion item. And this is the public hearing, approve the Public Housing Agency annual plan as supporting policy documents and amend and approve the 25 to 29 5-year plan and a significant amendment to the 25 to 26 annual plan. Authorize execution, authorize the executive director of the county housing authority to execute all public housing agency certifications, approve the public housing 5-year capital fund program plan Authorized applications for additional program funding, the creation of new or expansion of existing partnerships. Wow, that was quite a mouthful. Do we have a presentation? We don't have to? Okay. We do? Yes, we do? Okay.
Good morning, Chair Reamer and members of the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. The County Housing Authority administers a housing choice voucher, public housing, and other rental assistance programs serving more than 25,000 residents across San Diego County. These programs support the county's vision of housing for all and the county's framework for ending homelessness. Each year, the Housing Authority prepares an annual agency plan to outline new initiatives, update policies, and set strategies to address the housing needs of our most vulnerable residents. Today's action requests your approval of the annual agency plan, along with related authorities necessary for the administration of the Housing Authority's programs. Here with me today are David Estrella, Director of Housing and Community Development Services, and Nick Martinez, Assistant Director. I'll now turn it over to David.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. The Housing Authority serves approximately 11,100 households through the Housing Choice Voucher, public housing, and other rental assistance programs. The Housing Authority jurisdiction covers the unincorporated areas and 13 of the 18 cities within the region. Over $18 million each month is contributed into the local economy through rental assistance payments to over 4,000 partnering landlords. Part of housing development, or HUD, requires housing authorities to prepare and submit 5-year and annual agency plans. The county's current 5-year agency plan sets the housing authority's mission, long-term goals, and quantifiable objectives. The annual agency plan outlines new activities for the upcoming fiscal year and includes the policy documents for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program and the Public Housing Program. Additionally, the County Housing Authority has applied to HUD to convert funding for the county's public housing units to project-based vouchers, increasing the revenue that can be drawn down to support the ongoing operations and maintenance of these housing units. The conversion requires an amendment to the current 5-year and annual plans. In developing the annual agency plan, the Housing Authority engaged the community through a variety of outreach efforts. The plan was presented to the Resident Advisory Board, which includes Housing Authority program participants and residents. The plans were posted on the HCDS website for a 45-day public review, and the public comment process was announced in multiple publications and languages, as shown on this slide. In addition, an email blast was sent to over 160,000 recipients, and information was shared on the Engage San Diego County website. This hearing marks the end of the public comment period. All comments received were in line with the plan. I'll now turn it over to Nick to share more details on the plans and additional recommendations.
Thank you, David. The annual plan outlines activities of the County Housing Authority we are undertaking or expanding in the upcoming fiscal year. This includes continuing to expand the use of project-based vouchers or PBVs to support the creation of affordable and permanent supportive housing. Specifically, the county has 119 units in 4 developments coming online in 2026. We have over 300 more units at 8 developments planned for 2027 and beyond. This will add to 387 currently PBV units in our Housing Authority also owns and manages 121 public housing units at 4 sites in Chula Vista. We are including an amendment to the current 5-year and annual plan to support the financial repositioning of the public housing units. This will shift our funding revenue to a more sustainable Section 8 project-based model. Residents will continue paying an affordable rent, and the additional revenue will. The required amendment provides details about the updated post-conversion procedures. In addition to the approval of the agency plan amendments, we are requesting approval of the 5-year Public Housing Capital Fund Action Plan to receive grant revenue from HUD. The Capital Fund grant is part of the current funding stream for public housing. As stated previously, the financial repositioning will substantially increase the revenue for upkeep of these properties. The grant amount for 2026 is estimated to be $367,000, which will supplement operating expenses and go toward energy efficient projects, supporting the county's sustainability goals. Today's actions include receiving public testimony, approving and authorizing submission of the agency plan and required amendments, and approving the Public Housing Capital Fund plan. In addition, today's action will also authorize the County Housing Authority to apply for additional program funding or vouchers as opportunities become available. This concludes staff's presentation. We're available to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. Remember, we do have 10 oral requests to speak, six individuals in person, and 4 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 1 comment on this item, which was in opposition. For any individuals that requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it's your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 1 minute to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'd like to invite forward the first 3 individuals, allegedly Audra, Cesar Javier, and David.
There we go. Yeah, it's interesting to see how you guys continue to get more funding and the problem just continues to get worse with homelessness. It seems like we're funding homelessness and not solutions. Wondering when you guys are actually going to go talk to the homeless. Do you want help? And you guys, it's like the problem keeps getting worse. I couldn't even do the point in time count this year because Dreams for Change, guys you contracted with that are complicit in deaths at Tent City, kicked me out because they don't like the exposure of deaths and sexual assaults and all of the nefarious and neglectful things that are happening with the homeless. So I want to know when you guys are actually going to go have conversations with them and really figure out what's going on, because people wait for decades on HUD. And it's like you guys do all this busy work to make it seem like we're making a difference, but you can go and talk to these people and know you're not, because they are continually kind of being pushed back. It'll be, you know, like the process isn't going the way that it should and the way that would get people into housing, and that needs to change.
Next 2 speakers, Cesar Javier, David Moody, Jennifer Royston.
Did you say David Moody?
I did say David.
Okay, sorry,
Yes.
I didn't hear that well.
No problem.
My name is David Moody. I'm the chairman of the Senior Residence Council, formed to provide a voice to seniors. That's joined voice by co-chairman. Excuse me, I'm not sure the stupid phone off. I want to thank you, first of all, for housing for seniors. I'm a benefactor. I live in Hall Downey Residence in Claremont. It's a nice, very nice place. But I'm here to also warn you that the word affordable is quickly drifting away. We were told in our certification and recertification process that we would not have a rent increase till 2027. On Thanksgiving, we were gifted with notice that we were receiving an 8.8% raise of rent effective January 1st, and we only moved in the spring. So the annualized rate of increase was literally
Sir, that's your time. Thank you.
14 or 15%.
Thank you.
No, I just want to continue.
Thank you, sir. If you continue talking, we're going to have to ask you to
We
leave your
need rent
meeting.
control.
Your time
Rent
is
control.
complete.
Bill, do you want
Thank
to join in?
Who's next?
Jennifer Royston, Luis Soto, and Raquel Acosta.
Just walk out. Go ahead.
Sir, if you have anything written down and you want to hand it to our team, we would love to read it. If you have anything written.
Just real quickly, we moved into affordable senior housing. It's a mixed campus.
Sir, I'm going to just 1 second. Before you begin your comments, could you please state your name for the record?
Okay, William Joyce, resident at 5257 on it now. It's an affordable senior complex mixed with a new family affordable complex.
We are being roadblocked by the property manager concerning safety hazards. We are seniors. The traffic patterns of a mixed campus is becoming very unsafe. They're ignoring our requests for speed bumps, for signage for speed control. We've also petitioned many times for first responders to not find our building because they're not adequately numbered like required by the California Fire Code. Numbers over the main entrance, numbers on high, 5 buildings, no numbers. The developer ignores us, the property manager ignores us, the fire department ignored me, the city code enforcement ignored me. We need help as seniors. It's bordering on senior abuse.
Jennifer Royston, Louis Soto, and Raquel Acosta, if you could please come line up on the arrows, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Jennifer Royston, those keywords are bomb, terrorism, our great President Trump. Pastor Tell, we're asking you to come in here because we got plenty of housing here in San Diego to house our homeless. We have plenty. Send somebody here during the day to record our bars, our restaurants, our hotels. Our city is desolate, and it's desolate because the Democrats have overran our city. They have gang stalkers that stalk, harass the people that believe in God and believe in our great president. This should be stopped. We don't need no more fucking money. You need to put people in the empty houses you guys have because you got them all over the city. And that's what our government needs to come, our president needs to come take a look at. Look at all the houses we got empty. We got plenty of houses. You guys don't need no more money. Stop filling your pocket and leaving these people on the streets thinking you deserve something because you deserve the dirt.
Last call for Cesar Javier, Louis Soto, and Raquel Acosta.
I'm going to focus on Equus, out-of-state grantees, we're funding out-of-state people, state, bring them in. Government shut down for a month where they could not do anything within the housing, and they're not getting the house a month extra in which they need it because they couldn't do anything. The people that are representatives that help them not do anything, they just check in with them, they don't do any, they're lying to them on the credit application, they don't put on credit, obviously. Some of those people don't have credit, so the applications don't get approved. And then they kick out 34% houses what they claimed, 170 people. I was in the hotels, 170 people did not get housing. That makes them wonder how if they're falsifying the numbers by outing the homeless and then housing people that they know or taking the cash in their hand. After that to, for their own pockets. They're telling clients there's no funding last year. When they got funded in October, it just seems problematic. They just kicked out a pregnant lady of 7 months, knowing she's pregnant, she asked for the extension. And again, the whole month, a month that they needed extended.
Thank you. Not seeing any more movement in the chamber, we will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When I hear from speak, to be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we're going to go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Hello, good morning. My name is Bill Rivera. I'm the director of the House Justice Collaborative at Legal Aid Society San Diego. Legal Aid regularly works with and represents Section 8 voucher holders, navigate the complex HUD and admin plan regulations. And so I'm here to comment on proposed changes to the 2026 Section 8 admin plan. Overall, we are agreeable with the changes being proposed, and we submitted a more detailed public comment via email, but I just want to highlight 2 issues that we're seeing with our clients. One in relation to abatement, and that occurs when the unit fails inspections, and as a result, the Section 8 tax payments are stopped. What we would recommend is currently the unit, the contract is terminated after 90 days, and what we have seen is landlords use failed housing quality inspections as a way to terminate a big Section 8 tenant and avoid having to go through the normal process, because what happens when that contract terminates, you have the Section 8 tenant have to move and you lose your voucher. So we're recommending that under...
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chair Lawson Reamer, not seeing any other callers called in, no movement in the chamber. That concludes
Yes, I just, I'll move approval, but I do have a question about the community engagement piece, which is, I've asked this before, but, it seems like we kind of have our traditional, media, and so I wanted to see if we could expand that a little bit. I know at least one of the publications may not, get the reach that it once got. And so there are ways I think that barring what, other restrictions that we may have, that we can find ways to reach out to people. I know it's, it's a lengthy document and everything, but I think that we should, modernize a bit our, this communication piece. Alright, so, that is all I had, with regard to public comment. Heard the information, and, gathering that to respond. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairperson Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment. I just want to mention that this item keeps our forward housing programs funded and functional, allowing us to modernize aging homes and maintain stability for thousands of families. It's a practical action with real impact for the people who rely on these programs every day. It's important because without these updates, we risk losing momentum on preserving affordable homes and risk making it harder for families to stay rooted in their communities. These adjustments strengthen the foundation of our housing system and support long-term stability. I'm pleased to see an equity-focused approach embedded throughout this update, centering the needs of older adults, people with disabilities, families with children, veterans, and those most at risk. Our values must show up in our policies, and this moves us towards a housing system that is fair, accessible, and centered on community well-being. So I look forward to expanding our programs and securing more resources, especially in these difficult times when things are being made more difficult. Thank you very much for your work, and that concludes my remarks.
Thank you so much. Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll second the motion, and I just want to make sure staff gets together with the people who came in specific properties and issues, for our staff to reach out to them and if there's something we can help. We might have the city of San Diego, I don't know what the addresses are, but we'll reach out and help and see what their issues are and get a little clearer and if it can help.
Supervisor. Staff in the chamber says.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm sure who I was talking to. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. Any other comments? Okay, we'll have to do a voice vote in a second.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. County Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Supervisor Anderson?
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond?
Yes.
Chairperson Aguirre?
Yes.
Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp?
Yes.
And Chair Lawson-Remer?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously with all 10 commissioners who are present voting aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Here, this meeting, our minutes to be reorganized. Okay, thank you so much. We're going to now move on to item number 5. There's a public hearing and ADU ordinance.
Good morning, Chair and Board of Supervisors. Item 5 is our second zoning ordinance update of the year. Today, staff is requesting the board to consider the accessory dwelling unit zoning ordinance amendment, including options related to the separate sale of ADUs. The amendment before you today includes two project outcomes. The first involves amending the county zoning ordinance to update and clarify the accessory dwelling unit or ADU section for better alignment with new state laws. Periodic zoning ordinance updates and improvements are a shared objective with the Board of Supervisors and stakeholders. The second was directed by the Board of Supervisors and involves developing a local program under Assembly Bill 1033, which would allow for the separate sale of ADUs. This supports attainable homeownership opportunities and supports opportunities to age in place or transfer generational. First, we'll review the draft zoning ordinance updates to align with new state laws. An ADU is a secondary dwelling unit of up to 1,200 square feet on a residential property, and it provides complete independent living facilities for one or more people. In recent years, California has significantly expanded ADU laws to increase housing supply. ADUs have become an important housing option, supporting multi-generational living while fitting into existing neighborhoods. Construction of these units have increased both countywide and statewide. New ADU legislation was adopted in 2023 and 2024, prompting this current amendment. This amendment updates the ADU ordinance to comply with mandatory state requirements and clarify public guidance. During outreach, many inquiries focused on the number of ADUs allowed on a single-family parcel. Comments referenced ADU density bonus programs adopted by San Diego. It is important to clarify that the county is not proposing to adopt an ADU density bonus program as part of this amendment. The county follows state guidance on the number of ADUs allowed on single-family parcels. Under current state law, detached or conversion ADU. This means a single-family parcel could contain up to 4 units. With the state making it easier to build ADUs have become a major source of new housing production in recent years. As shown in the table, the number of ADUs permitted in the unincorporated county has remained relatively consistent over the last 5 years. Due to this, some community members have shared comments about neighborhood impacts, such as changes in density, infrastructure capacity, and parking. While these topics are outside of the scope of this amendment, they were noted and will continue to inform the county's long-term housing and planning efforts.
Now we'll look at AB 1033 and the optional program, which would allow the separate sale of ADUs. AB 1033 is an opt-in legislation, meaning the county can choose to develop a local program allowing the sale of ADUs as condos. This legislation applies to both single-family and multi-family residential units. The purpose of the legislation is to expand homeownership opportunities. The purpose of the legislation is to expand homeownership opportunities by including smaller, more attainable units within existing neighborhoods, making homeownership accessible to a broad range of income levels. Additionally, this downsides while remaining in their communities or to age in place. This legislation is also aligned with the county's Housing for All initiatives in advancing the board's adopted 5 key goals to reduce homeownership opportunities. It's important to note that a local program under AB 1033 would not increase the number of ADUs allowed on single-family parcels under state law. In March 2024, the Board of Supervisors directed staff to evaluate the separate sale of ADUs in the unincorporated area. In response, staff conducted outreach with stakeholders, property owners, and the development community to better understand interests, concerns, and ideas for how a local program might be structured. Based on that input, in October 2024, the board directed staff to move forward with developing a local program for the separate sale of ADUs and to explore potential local eligibility criteria based on public feedback. The amendment brought forward today provides options for local eligibility criteria under this program. Next, we'll look at specific requirements that must be met to allow for the separate sale of ADUs. whether or not to adopt the local program under 1833. Certain provisions are mandatory if a jurisdiction opts in. Selling ADU separately requires the creation of a condo. This applies to both a primary home and the ADU. An ADU must have a final building permit. The project must meet the requirements of both the Davis-Sterling Act, which governs condos and HOAs, and the Subdivision Map Act, which regulates land division and condo creation. A homeowners association is required, and new covenants, conditions, and restrictions would be recorded to establish the HOA. This ensures clear rules for handling shared spaces and responsibilities. Each condo unit would be assigned its own separate property tax bill. A critical step in converting existing ADUs to condos is to notify utility providers. Water, sewer, gas, and electric agencies will make the final determination on whether any changes, such as separate meters, are needed. Finally, properties on wells or septic systems need approval from the county's Department of Environmental Health and Quality before a condo map can be filed.
Following the board's direction, staff conducted public outreach to help inform the potential local eligibility criteria for the separate sale of ADUs. Community engagement is at the center. Through this lens, county staff reached out to specific stakeholder groups. From spring through fall of 2025, staff held a variety of engagement activities, including webinars, stakeholder meetings, community planning and sponsor group all chairs quarterly meetings, and community planning group discussions, engaging residents, the building industry, and during these discussions, some community members raised concerns related to infrastructure, parking, density, and rental housing, while others noted potential benefits such as expanded home ownership opportunities, support for multi-generational households, and increased financial flexibility for homeowners. Building on this outreach, several consistent themes emerged across stakeholder groups. Feedback from outreach informed the local eligibility criteria included in the proposed amendment. Next, we'll review key themes raised by stakeholders. From a development and permitting perspective, we've heard that while many ADUs function well as rentals, not all are currently set up for separate ownership. Stakeholders emphasized the need for clear requirements related to access, parking, and utilities. Related regulations on infrastructure highlighted the importance of ensuring adequate water, sewer, and utility metering, while an ADU is proposed for separate sale. These requirements are in place under existing codes and would continue to be enforced when an ADU is converted for separate ownership. We also heard strong interest in environmental and locational considerations, particularly in rural and high fire severity areas. While state law limits the county's authority in place and would continue to guide where subdivision for separate sale is feasible. Regarding impacts to affordability, feedback reflected both enthusiasm for expanding home ownership opportunities and concerns about potential effects on the rental sale of ADUs is new in California. Local data is not yet available. However, findings from other jurisdictions suggest that allowing separate sale can expand attainable homeownership without significantly reducing rental supply. Staff will continue monitoring for emerging data. The amendment includes draft language allowing separate sale of ADUs under AB 1033, reflecting state law requirements and incorporating options for local eligibility criteria developed through public and stakeholder input.
Next, we'll walk through potential options for local eligibility criteria. This decision will shape how a local program is implemented and which ADUs would be eligible for separate sale. While AB 1033 establishes a state baseline for the separate sale of ADUs, local agencies retain discretion to adopt additional eligibility criteria. The state baseline would allow any type of ADU to be sold. However, junior ADUs may not be sold under AB 1033. These options illustrate possible local approaches. However, the board retains flexibility to determine a structure that best aligns with county goals beyond the options provided today. Option 1 establishes a local program based on the state framework which implements AB 1033 as written, allowing separate ADU sales with no additional local requirements. Next, we'll look at an option that would create opportunities for owner occupants. Under option 2, the separate sale of an ADU would be allowed only if a right of first place. This means that each condo owner must give either their current tenant or another condo owner living on the same lot the first chance to buy the unit if it's put up for sale. The right holder would have 60 days to match a purchase offer. Implementing a right of first refusal would establish a clear process for ADU condo sales with some additional procedural steps for participating property owners to follow. Ongoing monitoring of sales would be needed to ensure compliance. Next, we'll look at options that implement what types of ADUs may be sold. We have 2 options in this category. Under option 3, separate sale would be allowed only if the ADU is detached from the primary structure. This option is intended to simplify the process and provide greater predictability for property owners by reducing shared infrastructure between units. Under this approach, ADUs that are physically attached to the primary dwelling would remain under the same ownership and would not be eligible for separate sale. Option 4 relates to new versus existing ADUs. Under this option, separate sale of ADUs would apply to new development only, and not to ADUs existing prior to condo mapping. The condo units in common areas must have been mapped prior to the construction commencement of any ADUs that could be sold separately. This option would not extend to previously constructed ADUs. Since 2020 alone, approximately 1,700 ADUs have been permitted in the county. These units would not be eligible for separate sale under this option. The option would exclude previously built ADUs and future condo conversions. Option 5 is to not opt into a local program under AB 1033. The county would not adopt provisions allowing the separate sale of ADUs, and existing regulations would remain in place pending any future board action. These options provide a framework for how the program could be implemented locally. The Planning Commission reviewed these options and expressed concerns that local criteria would restrict implementation, and they ultimately supported a fully option of the program.
Next, we'll review recommendations provided by the Planning Commission and community planning groups. The Planning Commission recommended that the Board of Supervisors adopt the ADU ordinance amendment, including a program for the separate sale of ADUs as written under state law without any additional local eligibility criteria. Additionally, during public review of the amendment, 5 community planning groups submitted letters opposing the separate sale of ADUs and ADU development in general. While each community planning group expressed concerns, 2 groups, Valley Center and Fallbrook, voted to recommend that the county opt out of creating a local program under AB 1033. Today's request is for the board to find that the ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, consider and adopt the section of the ADU ordinance that addresses updates needed to comply with mandatory state law, and consider the section of the ADU ordinance that allows the separate sale of ADUs, and at the board's discretion, provide direction regarding local eligibility criteria to be applied to the separate sale of ADUs in the unincorporated area. This concludes our presentation. Staff are available to answer any questions.
We requested information from our attorney earlier. I'm the only supervisor person in Incorporated, and I have an ADU, and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to participate in this conversation, and if our council wouldn't mind just addressing publicly.
I understood them from the district to staff and my understanding of the ordinance, that there would be nothing in the no conflict of interest. Supervisor Anderson participating or voting or put the board's decision today at risk.
Thank you.
Okay, it's your choice. Supervisor Dustin.
Okay, thank you. I know there's been a lot of interest in this item, and you said it was Valley Center and Fallbrook, both the planning group said they don't want any of this. Is that right? Yeah. So and thanks to everybody for participating and for bringing this forward. We need housing, and the ADUs make up a large portion of our new construction in San Diego County, unfortunately. That's the case, but allowing for the separate sales of the ADUs could help renters get into home ownership, especially given the average cost for a modest single-family home. Appreciate the staff's efforts to gather the stakeholders' feedback and resulting in options 2, 3, and 4 to go beyond the state law. But I tend to agree with the Planning Commission's unanimous recommendation to implement the ordinance consistent with state law option number 1. I don't want to bog down property owners with more regulations, and community members will still have a chance to comment on input when an ADU project goes through. There'll be a kind of that process. They will have input from neighbors and people concerned. If we're going to adopt an ordinance, I want it to be as flexible as possible to give homeowners or home builders room to make their projects work. So although it's not a perfect solution, being able to sell ADUs to gather more housing, it's a step in that direction. Our young generation has been shut out of the housing market just because you have astronomical costs of homes here in San Diego County. And at least this gives people a step in that direction for some type of home ownership. So I'm in favor of adopting the ordinance consistent with option 1 without establishing additional local eligibility requirements. So the motion to approve staff recommendation option 1.
Vice Chair Martin.
Thank you. I actually want to hear public comment. I do have some questions, but I want to hear public comment.
Okay, then we'll start with you. I'll come back to public comment. Anyone else initial questions for staff before we get to public comment? Okay, okay. We'll begin with public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson River. We have 14 total requests to speak, 5 individuals in person, and 9 requested to speak by phone. I'd also like to note for the record, we did receive 3 comments on this item. 2 were in favor, 1 was in opposition. The call for signing out with instructions that were provided to you. Go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 1 minute to address the board. Please for the first 3 individuals. Allegedly Aja, Alonso Gonzalez, and Cesar Javier.
Yes, I have a question. How much is it costing us to have 7 of them sitting up here giving a presentation? It's kind of interesting. But this program is going to bring in money for sure, and aging in place, that is in place. And home ownership, it's interesting because people can't afford rent. But yet we're like, they're going to buy a home. We're going to help them. How are you guys going to help them do that? Or is this just a money-making opportunity? For sure. Because there's plenty of homes, it's just the rent's too high. And again, I'm not sure how you think those people are going to come in and be able to afford that, but it doesn't really matter. And you're going to pass it even though the people in those communities said we don't want it. It's a shoo-in. That means you're going to make sure it happens. And, you know, it's just that, because there's fire dangers, parking problems, evacuations, like all these things that you guys don't really care about, but you do care about health and safety, right? Good.
Alonso Gonzalez, Javier. So the next 3 speakers, George King, Jennifer Royston, Jesse Schmidt. You can come forward in any order.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is George Sheen with the Pacific Southwest Association of Realtors. Thanks for your time. I'm here to speak in support of the local implementation of AB 1033. PSR supports the implementation of AB 1033 specifically for developments that are 4 units or less and that have a priority for own occupancy. As mentioned, there's a severe shortage of properties that are available for purchase at the entry level, and this policy has the potential to create opportunities in that realm. So we encourage you to implement it locally. Thank you.
Action. I really want to thank staff for all their efforts to get us here, and I especially want to thank the activists who helped broker this program throughout the state. especially our own leaders here with the Casita Coalition, have their pros. The truth is, it's already an onerous enough process with the time and the investment that's required that what we're seeing in other municipalities is very small, slow participation because it's already timely and costly to the mapping process. In fact, I go even further and ask the board to ask staff to explore allowing junior ADUs to be attached to ADUs as a component to make it more worthy and worthwhile for owners to split the lots. Thank you.
Good morning, board. This is Jackie Schmidt, City Policy Manager for Atlantic Affordable Development. Here before you today in strong support of this item. We are in a housing crisis. Families are doubling up, seniors are aging out, and young people who grew up here cannot afford to stay here. ADUs are one of the fastest, least disruptive, and most cost-effective ways to create housing in existing neighborhoods. Allowing this upper sale of ADUs opens the door to ownership for working families who are locked out of the market. We would encourage the board to look at the possibility of adopting both options 1 and 2. 1033, we do not believe the right of refusal would add additional requirements to the separation sale for ADUs, and would encourage the board to look at adopting both options. Thank you.
Thank you. Is our next speaker coming for our call our final in-person speaker, Martin Rodriguez.
Was Martin going first, or am I going?
No, you may speak.
Again, I say we have plenty of housing in San Diego. It's the cost of living. It's like you guys keep building more houses and more crap and letting people put more crap on top of other crap. And it's like, we have plenty of housing out there. If the real FBI would take a look, they'll see that most of our apartments are deserted. They're brand new, but they're all deserted. You'll see a light to make it look, because we know how the Democrats, they always play like it's the illusion. The illusion they're going to kill you. The illusion that they're going to do this. The illusion that it's everybody else except for them ripping apart our cities. And it's unacceptable. We have plenty of housing. We don't need to keep building and building and building in San Diego. You got shit, make it work. You know, Lord.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. My name is Martin Arias, and I serve as the taxpayer advocate for the San Diego County Assessor Recorder County Clerk's Office. I'm here to voice Assessor Jordan Marks' strong support for Item 5, the ADU Ordinance Amendment. This proposal updates the accessory dwelling unit section of the zoning ordinance through an amendment that aligns our local framework with a new mandatory state laws while introducing an opt-in program that allows the separate sale of ADUs. This creates smaller, more attainable homeownership opportunities for San Diego County residents. This is an innovative approach to expanding housing affordability while maintaining property tax clarity and predictability. It reduces confusion for homeowners, provides certainty for assessors and builders, and strengthens compliance, benefiting both the taxpayers and the county. At its core, it's a win-win, expanding attainable homeownership for residents while supporting efficiency, transparent county operations. Thank you.
Now we will hear from those that are requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
My name is Sharon Haven. I've spent 40 years in land development in Leeds County, and I'm currently involved in ADU development. You know all the reasons why it would be a good idea and some of the drawbacks. I can support the Planning Commission recommendation. I particularly support option 3 as probably the least problematic overall in terms of having people that close to you that own a house and they're a junior ADU makes it difficult. oppose option 4 as discriminating against people who have built their ADUs for the same reasons and who have followed what is expected of them by county regulation. Please don't create separate categories of ADUs. Please support this.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Paul. Your phone might be muted. Okay, we'll come back to you, Paul.
Yes, good morning. And I'm a third generation San Diegan. I am strongly in favor of item number 5, option number 3, because I believe people who are property owners should have the right and opportunity to sell any detached ADU that is legally on their property and has been built according to and in compliance of all building codes. The housing prices in our city are currently absolutely prohibitive for young people, especially when starting out their careers in San Diego, and for older retired residents. I also want to comment on an opposition of option 4 because we currently have a detached legal permitted to code ADU on our property. It was built in order to help my mother who was in need and couldn't afford a rental property in San Diego. I don't feel that anyone with an existing ADU again.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
My name is Celeste Square. On behalf of the nonprofit Christina Coalition, I urge you to vote yes on agenda item 5 using option 1. We don't recommend option 2, which duplicates the existing provisions of the San Diego County Subdivision Ordinance, Section 81.105, that already require noticing of existing tenants and a 90-day exclusive right to contract. We don't recommend option 3, which would ban conversion of attached ADUs. Condo conversions for attached apartments have well-established pathways for delineating ownership boundaries. This option would unfairly eliminate lower-cost attached ADU conversions. We don't recommend option 4, which would exclude those with existing ADUs, causing lower-resource homeowners who can't afford to build a new ADU to be locked out from important aging-in-place strategies. And the data in attachment F on no reduction in rental housing supply has been noted. Opting into AB 1033 with option 1 will help bring back attainable starter homes in San Diego County. Thank you for considering.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
I got a question. Why was last subject I wasn't able to talk? I signed up for every item. Do you just pick and choose, or did I have to re-register every time because you want to kick me out? So we're okay with fraud, right? I mean, the people more. We have making more money into these projects that only benefit contractors. I don't know why, because you want to turn San Diego into a surrounded by military, which is very stupid and right next to the border. But I guess you guys are ready for any problems that may take up with, escalating all over the place, right? You guys are all ready for that, right? Or that's not your problem? I mean, I thought you guys were there to supervise us, but you don't really care about our safety, apparently.
Thank you. Your time is up, and we will go back to Paul. See if he is on the line.
Hello, I hope you can hear me now.
We can hear you, Paul.
Hello? Great. The separate sale of an ADU would be, in essence, assessed as owner's property, which he or she paid for or inherited, especially if the ADU buyer was made a tenant in common. Moreover, the original owner would lose any control of who occupies the ADU, which was so a thief, madman, pedophile, rapist, or murderer could move in without the owner being able to control the situation. In a sense, here, this could lead to disaster and litigation for years. One of the planning groups mentioned that the original property might be reassessed at current market rates upon the construction or sale of the ADU, so the owner could end up paying negative. The new ordinance has 2 minutes.
Thank you. Your time is up, and Chair Lawson, remember that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, calling now on Vice Chair Scott.
Thank you very much. I have a couple questions. I'm going back and forth about option number 2, right? So I don't agree with option 3, option 4. I think we should certainly move forward with option 1. I know that in the ordinance, so the options match up with the alternatives that are included in the draft ordinance that we have before us. But what I'm trying to think through all the positive and negative impacts of a right of first refusal, right? So I know there's an additional 60-day period where the opportunity to make an offer, regardless of if the seller has current offers on the table or not, right? So that's right of first refusal. I don't know if we can find other language that maybe does not add a lot of additional layers on the process, but my main concern is that investors will buy ADUs and they continue to rent them out. Yeah. And that, I'm trying to avoid that. And so we've heard from a lot of folks. I know the City Coalition in particular has done a lot of work on this up and down the state. But the primary purpose is for really folks to enter into the market and people who otherwise would not be able to, not for investors to buy a whole bunch of ADUs and continue to rent it out. So the language I think for the right of first refusal is on page 12, I think, of the ordinance. And I understand some of the concerns about what about the primary residence or owner occupancy type of language. Would that be appropriate? I'm really trying to find a way because I can't support anything that doesn't kind of at least provide a process or a backstop to allow first-time home buyers to have the opportunity.
So I think that's a question for county staff, and I just totally agree with my colleague. I think that's one of my primary concerns as well. So that's my big focus is here as well, is how do we kind of target this program for folks that are renters, already occupying the space, first-time home buyers. Thank you.
Previously, the state did require when someone would construct an ADU for the primary resident to remain in either the primary home or the ADU. I share that just for context about it. I recognize that's not a specific question. The state changed that law years ago, shifting away from it. In terms of a requirement to require a person purchasing the ADU, which would become a condo, to be a resident, I'm not familiar with any state law that would prohibit it, but I would look to my friends in county council to ask if we have any insights on that now, or if we need to research it to determine if we have the legal ability to make that a requirement in the ordinance.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, we would need to research that question. So at this moment, I don't have an answer to whether this board could restrict the sale of the ADU to a certain population of individuals, whether that's.
I'm pretty sure that's not legal.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that we're providing opportunity based on the spirit of the law, which is that first time folks that want to enter the market can afford to based on the cost.
I understand. If the question is more along the lines of can we develop county programs to facilitate these folks purchasing these ADU units, that there are no legal issues with that program.
Vice Chair, through the chair, I think there's a combination of potential possibilities that we could look at here. One could be a combination of the right of first refusal component. I know there's some additional existing laws around that. We could also look at first-time homebuyer programs that are managed through our Housing and Community Development Services. Pair those up so that folks who might be interested but do not have the experience or perhaps capital to necessarily do this at least have the bolstering of that support program. So we could look at working with them as well, so at least we have an infrastructure in place to make it more likely for those individuals. I don't know that we could definitively say that that would not happen, as I don't think you're saying, but we could provide some opportunities to streamline that possibility.
Okay, let me quick little weigh in. I remember we had Marcos, and I think I'm not sure how it went. But I think we made some units or housing that they had to be owner occupied for the first year, or whatever the time period was. So at least there's deterrence, but there's no guarantee that was something. So if that's something we could look into, that might be a case. But I don't know what the time period. If you could do it for a year, 2 years, whatever the options are. But I do remember that conversation. That it had to be owner occupied for X amount.
San Marcos is some good housing policy.
We did affordable housing before it was cool. We had 10% of our housing in affordable.
I do think, and I think not that we want to be like the city of San Diego in all things, but I think they have some similar language, so I would like to look at that. I certainly want to move forward as quickly as we can on this, but I do think that's an important part of the conversation. And so would that require us, because it requires a little bit of additional legal analysis, would it require us to come back as a part of the motion with that direction? Or language?
We could probably do, I'm just thinking procedurally, we could probably do move forward with option 2 today and come back to the board with additional potential parameters in a similar vein that you'll provide us as an additional option. So, I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that would at least allow us to move forward already and then come back and, I don't know how long you guys would need, 60 days or maybe it's the 1 year owner occupancy or additional parameters we put on.
Yeah, I see no obstacles to that plan. The ordinance, then we can simply provide our legal advice directly to staff, and that will be included.
That's great. So you can just move it back and come back with an ordinance of option along the lines of option 2 and including potential other similar legally compliant possibilities for us to promote first-time home buyers and owner occupancy.
I'm good with that. I'm good with having the ordinance come back to us with that language that is a little bit more expensive. Because I know the language we have does include the alternative option 2. But I want to make sure that that's the right thing to do. And now since we have the owner occupancy promise I'll vote on that. But I do think it's very, very important. And then for the first time home buyer programs, we have an awesome one. The county, we work with the Housing Commission. It just needs more funding. Like people, the realtors, the loan officers, they all know. They all are very engaged in those programs. We just got, we've run out of money very quickly. And so if we want to talk about how we want it specifically for ADU, it might, the pot might last a little bit longer because the cost of ADUs will probably be less than the median cost right now of $1 million for a single-family home. But we do have programs already that provide that infrastructure. They just need additional capital. None of the supervisors do kind of comment.
Yeah, I really like that option too. Can we move it forward and then come back with research on owner-occupied? First, is the right of first refusal and with options for, it comes back with that or other options?
My understanding is no matter what, it's going to have to come back with an ordinance. So maybe we can just direct staff to move forward with an ordinance to adopt AB 103 with a number of options. Owner occupancy and first-time home buyers, and one of the options could be the 1 year, requirement for first-time home ownership, and other options that might arise in the course of research or feedback from board members, so that we're not delayed on moving forward this ordinance, but the ordinance comes back with at least 2 we've identified, and potentially additional along these lines as kind of created through feedback from the board and staff research.
Right, do that whole motion.
I can say it again.
I'm fine with those options and moving option 1 today and then come back with other ones that promote homeownership and maybe even the right of first refusal to that.
Okay, and I will go ahead and second that motion as it is understood right now. Agree. And I tend to err on the side of the owner occupancy, but I want to have that conversation legally and also want to still look at the right.
Ingrid, did you catch that?
Yes, I was thinking it might be helpful to this board and to me, to understand what the motion on the floor is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who is it again?
That would be wonderful.
To move forward today, we have an ordinance to implement AB 103, including options in that ordinance draft to promote first-time home buyers and home ownership, including but not limited to the right of first refusal and owner occupancy required for the first year or longer, and any additional legally compliant options.
That works for county council.
Okay. Is that okay? I'm sorry, I got really excited to make the motion.
So that's the money comes in, and the motion's fine, but on the new ADUs, there's going to be nobody in there, so there is no
That's right.
first refusal. So it's really over the current ADU.
About your addition, your thoughts about the 1 year owner occupancy requirement is very interesting because it sort of gives us more tools in the toolbox for different kinds of circumstances. Yeah. Very smartly, we're kind of been asked about a timeline. What timeline would be workable?
I think the timeline on the floor was 60 days, 120 might be better for PBS. I don't want to promise on their behalf.
We would appreciate that, Chair and board members, so that we can do additional outreach. We've also talked about the level of effort that staff is extending right now on various housing items. So we can return with our other zoning ordinance updates towards the end of the year, or if we can have 120 days that allows us to vet this properly and pull this into our work plan.
I'm going to defer to Supervisor Desmond and Vice Chair Montgomery step on a timeline.
As soon as you can.
Yeah, I am okay with giving the 120 days, but I would like a bit more urgency just around it. I think there is an ordinance before us, right? And so we're asking for, that direction that I will repeat. But I would like to see something, so I would like to get this moving forward. I think it would be good for the county, and I would like to see it more, but when would you do this one day?
I mean, so maybe we could say June, that's before the end of June.
That's, when would you do this one day, sorry?
Okay. Great, that's the motion on the floor. Any additional comments? Supervisor Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If, as I understand it, AB 1033 explicitly states that HOAs must approve the sale of the ADU. In that, as I understand it, the the bill also states that the individual processing and application for the conversion process must provide written authorization from HOA, which is not a big whoop-de-doo. However, I don't know what the condo conversion process requires, and we may want to look at what the county does on that, so that we're not just standing something that's not effective. You know, when I think in terms of people wanting to do this, the first thing that came to mind since I started on the water board was utilities. Most of these ADUs are tied to the same water meter, the same electric meter. Not that that can't be overcome because we have duplexes that share water and electricity, but I think that we need to state in our ordinance what are some of the solutions to this, or at least address it in some way. Otherwise, we're approving something and we're just going to march off to do it, and then we'll be right back here again, delayed, as we have to address these things. And perhaps staff can speak to it. Maybe my concerns are unwarranted, but I was thinking, you know, if you were in OHOA, you could rent it, but if you went to sell it, they have to approve it. And then when they approve it, you're going to have some sort of mini HOA or condo rule of how you address all of these things in whether there's common area between the two homes, not as an individual. So
Did you guys have to respond, or is it just your comment?
No, I'm happy for them to respond. We've talked about this briefly prior. I've had these concerns before, but I just wanted to make sure that it's addressed as we move forward with those options, because no one's talked about it up to now.
Supervisor Anderson, we can, during this time that you're evaluating these other components the board has directed us to, we can take a closer look at exactly what would be in the ordinance and then how we would implement that to ensure we're not missing these items. Anything else to add from the staff?
Through the chair, supervisor, currently the Assembly bill does require the utility providers to approve whether they want separate meters installed or they would allow the existing setup. So we will include that in additional research for the update.
For many utilities, that meter as we do all these things, what look like very affordable housing becomes very unaffordable as we add meters and as we add these things. So I agree with my colleague on making more attainable housing. I just want to make sure that we're being thoughtful in our approach. Thank you.
Chairperson McCary.
Thank you, and thanks for addressing the question about timeline. That was my question, how fast we can bring it back. But I'm supportive of the motion on the floor. I think that having a set of options is important, you know, especially as it comes to right of first refusal. Thank you, Supervisor Desmond, for that example you offered. I think that's an interesting one and something I'm willing to consider. Support it. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We have a motion on the floor in a second. Wait, let me pause. Supervisor Desmond, you're currently listed as the maker of the motion. Do you want to be the maker of the motion as I articulated, or do you want to swap it out and have me be the maker? We will make it Supervisor Desmond Boshier. I'm ready to go. Thank you.
And Chair Lawson, remember that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors, board president, and vote aye.
Okay, thank you so much. Special election levy special tax, current resolution number 1000, zone number 90, here's the annex of Ranches Senate Bay, and the exemption. Do we have a clarification? Great, we're just beginning with public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. Remember, we have 6 total requests to speak, 2 individuals in person, 4 requesting to speak by phone. Also, like to note for the record, we received 5 comments on this item. 4 were in favor and 1 was neutral. For any individual that requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial to the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra, Cesar Javier, and Deputy Royston. You all have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by taking your name for the audio.
So I'm wondering why these roads have deteriorated so badly that, why haven't they been maintained with the money that's been in this fund already, and then the funds are going to run out, but for what reason? Where's that money been going is the question. So I mean, if they're not being maintained now, why would adding more taxes on the people's property benefit them? Are you deciding now that it's like, well, if we get the money, if we get more, because these funds will not last us, right? They will eventually run out. Where are they, what's it going to be spent on? I mean, again, the roads aren't being maintained. So the idea is to come back to the people, right, and levy a tax, because then if they don't pay that, then you can take their home too. How cool is that? That's why the tax assessor was so stoked about that last item. Right? Yeah, let's definitely get involved with that. So yeah, and then just voting. It's like, I mean, the registrar of voters is going to take care of this, and we already know that our elections are messed up and fraudulent, as Justin's been trying to tell you guys for years and was fired for, right? But let's trust that process, because as long as we have, 2/3 vote yes, well, then it passes, right? So you guys get more money. Oh, but it's definitely not going to be rigged, right? Because the people are going to say, yes, we want to pay more money for maintaining the roads that we've already paid for that you don't maintain now. Good. It's government works. You guys care so much about money, and you'll do anything for it. Traffic chill, whatever, right? It's good. That's why you guys are self-imploding, and it's good, because you just hand us what we need to watch it happen. Good job.
My name is Jennifer Royston. My husband's a heavy equipment operator, and we see a lot of nonsense on those roads that aren't really getting fixed, but it's like, what are they really doing over there? Are you guys trying to cover the holes that you traffic the drugs and the people through from Mexico to San Diego? I mean, what are you guys really doing? Because it's not road work. But you see these weird construction sites in very suspicious places. So
Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, bombs, terrorism, terrorists, assassinations, and our great President Trump. We definitely need you in here in San Diego because the trafficking that they're doing, running children through these tunnels, calling it road work is unacceptable. You know what's happening in our government. You know the people that are participating with their pockets full, asking taxpayers for more money to fix the roads when they don't even fix the roads. So, we want justice. No peace. No justice, no peace. And we're waiting for those bombs to start happening in our officials' offices so they start realizing you are not above the law, you are a human, and you will serve the people that's why you get paid. You're here to serve the people, not your greedy selves. I mean, you're still gonna die, you're still gonna look old, you're still gonna go through all the things that's necessary for you to transfer to the other place, and you're not gonna make it because you're gonna be put to hell.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that are requested to speak by phone. Again, when it's your turn to speak, if you unmute, you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Although I don't believe that taxes on just a part of the community are good, but the board letter says that the attendees of the community outreach event were generally supportive of the idea of special tax just for this community. It is really disturbing, however, that there is no indication of how many comments or what they were. There are no pictures or even descriptions of how bad the road damage is. So, I mean, what's the point of having public discourse if you're going to bury all the critical information? I mean, you know, there should be some kind of protocol to attach relevant information to every agenda item. I mean, you know, that said, I'm willing to support an election since it only costs $2,500. However, that's a hell of a lot better than the last supervisor elections, the special elections, which cost multi-million-dollar affairs. And, you know, I mean, the costs you impose on the people are getting ridiculous. And, you know, I don't know how long the people will actually put up with it. I mean, I think the whole thing is kind of ridiculous. I think, you know, it should be part of the whole community.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Well, they've been clear on record the fact that you guys refuse to acknowledge the registration fraud when it comes around. On top of that, as I said multiple times, if you go ahead and adopt Julian Brown technology into our landfill, start recycling the plastic and the low-grade carbon, you could go ahead and turn it into graphene. Did you know if you put that into the concrete, you probably need a lot less repairs? You know, it could actually help us with our infrastructure and, you know, create a bunch of money. But, you know, the people cheating for our elections do not want that. They want to give that to the private sector. They want to erase Julian Brown out of the history book so they can get rich. And Monica apparently loves that fucking idea. She doesn't even want to acknowledge a 17-year-old African-American kid with a high school project able to recycle plastic and turn it into our plastic and recovering some of the money. If we didn't take that long, we could have done that years ago. But unfortunately, we didn't elect these assholes that are sitting above us right now, pretending that they control shit. I am so fucking tired of it. I'm looking forward to you throwing me in prison because I called you. Why? Because you want to go ahead and show how much fucking power you have. Damien's a piece of shit. He takes a it was a fair judge, but no, Governor Newsom appointed a judge to go after me, right? I was one of the first fucking cases. But we want to ignore all that fucking crap.
Conclude public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you so much. Do any of my colleagues have any questions on item 6? Comments on item 6?
Move to approve it.
Thank you. Second. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further comments? Okay, go ahead and vote.
Chair Lawson, remember that motion passes unanimously. It's also the resolution present vote time.
Okay, thanks so much. Now we return to non-agenda public comment.
Chair Lawson, remember we still have 10 requests. We have 5 requests to speak, all coming via phone. So for any individual that requests to speak on this item by phone, if you could please call into the conference line now with the instructions that were given to you, and we'll give you a moment to do so. All right, we'll now hear from those that are requested to speak by phone. Again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted, and you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Hi, my name is Laura Fahim, President and founder of Los Angeles Alliance for Animals. Supervisor Tara Larson-Remo continues to allow one of the most egregious and heinous horse cruelty cases this county has ever seen to occur in her district. Because of the continued lack of action from Supervisor Tara Larson-Remo, another horse named Penny has been left severely neglected. Penny was skin bone in Eagle County. But this is not an isolated case. For years, the situation on Village Chardonnay, where there is 500 plus animals in the district of Supervisor Joel Anderson, has also been allowed to continue despite ongoing serious concerns about animal welfare. These cases demonstrate a broader lack and pattern across the county: lack of enforcement, lack of accountability, and lack of progress. Animal cruelty is not a minor issue, it is a serious public safety issue. This is exactly why the FBI now tracks animal cruelty cases nationwide. Since 2016, animal events in the FBI's National Crime Database. Because research has shown it is often linked to other serious crimes and violence in our communities. Animal cruelty was given its own crime category for law enforcement to collect detailed national data on these crimes. When government officials ignore these cases, they are not just failing animals, they are failing the safety and values of the communities they represent, which this county has proven to fail miserably. Thank you for your time.
My name is Nancy Knott, and I am in your district, Tara Larson-Remo. I'm calling regarding the Carlsbad Animal Shelter as well as the Benita. Countless calls and emails have gone to every supervisor with no responses. I'm not only speaking for myself, but hundreds of citizens of Carlsbad who have had the same result in trying to contact you. We have tried for 1 year to be able to bring volunteers on at the Carlsbad shelter. We are told consistently, no, we don't have a position of somebody hired to do that. This has been almost a year. The dog day out, same thing. There's tremendous non-accountability at the Carlsbad shelter, and which is the one I'm speaking about today. We are now in the city of Carlsbad becoming aware. So again, I'm not speaking for myself only. I'm speaking for hundreds of people who have called themselves trying to volunteer. I'm wondering who is accountable and who is going to hire this mysterious person that is going to allow volunteers into that shelter. Because right now, for the last year, it is running on its own. So we are ready to volunteer. We certainly have the volunteers standing in line about 100 deep at this point, receiving no ability to get in there and volunteer for the dog, and also having no ability. You have received countless emails, countless letters. You do not respond. So my question is, if this is too much for you, could you please delegate this to another organization in San Diego County? Because the only people that are suffering here are not, can't think of a crueler thing than to be too busy to allow volunteers.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Becky Raff, and today I'd like to address a webinar I attended on February 25th, hosted by Supervisor Lawson Reamer, a Consumer Fairness and Public Protection webinar. While the topic is important, the way the webinar was conducted raises serious concern, especially in light of yesterday's discussion on transparency in such committees and ad hoc committees. The panel featured attorneys who specializes in consumer fairness. Topics included environmental pollution, bad state health insurance, predatory lending, and intended fraud. According to Ms. Reamer, our district attorney's office is overburdened, and she emphasized that hiring a team of attorneys could help alleviate this workload. I'm grateful that the county wants to protect consumers. One of the examples cited was the tobacco lawsuit. Products that were advertised and marketed as safe but later proved harmful, leading to corporate accountability and restitution for consumers who were harmed. What concerned me was the way in which the webinar was conducted. Attendees could not see the chat. There was no way to know what questions were coming from the public, who was on the call, or even how many participants were present. No participant list was provided, and the lack of transparency made it difficult to know whether the discussion represented the views of the county as a whole, or if the questions were scripted. As the board that public webinars and forums are structured for open dialogue and clear access. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. Thank you for this opportunity. I was in the queue for the Housing Authority item today and item 17 yesterday regarding the county's medical service. Both items I have a lot of upfront personal experience with access my extended family, so I'm sorry my phone was never opened so that I could speak. So I'm grateful I made it on. This time I wanted to share some good news from the public health community. California has enacted the first law, that's first in the nation, AB 455, that requires sellers of single-family homes to leave information in writing as a form regarding their property, whether there's been inside smoking or vaping, that's tobacco or marijuana, or third-hand smoke contamination. Third-hand smoke contamination refers to the toxic residues left behind when tobacco or marijuana smoke or vapor settles into surfaces and dust and building materials. These pollutants carcinogens and reproductive toxins, and they're very difficult to remove when they pose particular risk to children, the elderly, and immunocompromised individuals. This is important work, recognizing the role of products that are smoked and vaped, be they having the result of secondhand or third-hand smoke. So I wonder why the county at this point, if they care about public health, would ever move forward with increasing the number of businesses that sell products that are smoked and vaped, like marijuana, which is primarily the products that are sold at marijuana storefronts. This seems unwise and contradictory. We either care for public health and we recognize how secondhand smoke.
Okay, thank you so much.